Welcome to episode 29, Beyond Self-Help, where we explore the concept of self-help and how it can never really work because you cannot fix what is not broken. You'll hear Molls explain how she sometimes imagines that she'll be on the show alone, instantly manifesting it so that I have 50 minutes of technical difficulties until I finally join and sound like I'm in a tunnel. If you didn't know that the show was live, you do now. Enjoy, and thank you for being here.
Hello everyone. Sometimes I just have to say, because we talk about thought a lot, so my thought sometimes is when I'm waiting for everyone to come on and I've got the theme music on and it's just me for like 30 seconds. I'm like, what if one day it's just me? Gem doesn't show, no one shows. What would I do? I was like, oh, I just talk. But yeah, it's just that thought comes in of, oh my God, what would I do? So hi everybody. Hi Gem. Gem, are you there? I can't hear you, darling. Hi, Do. Hi, Spongy. Hi, Cody. What do we do about Gem? Let me remove and add her again. Sorry, guys. Bit of some tech issues today. Let's invite Gem. Yes, remove and then invite. See if that works. Bear with us, guys. This will all get cut out of the actual podcast, the recording, but I know Gem dropped her phone in the sea, I believe, yesterday, so she's on someone else's phone. So that might be why we have some problems. Gem, are you there? No, I can't actually hear you, darling. I'll let you try and sort all of that out while I kind of try and get on a little bit. So hi everybody. It's quite an interesting subject, the no self-help spaces. This subject is quite close to my heart because I was kind of on the self-help bandwagon for a very long time before I found the principles. It always looked like that there was somewhere to get. There was a me that needed to be fixed, needed to be better, was broken, wasn't good enough. So there was so much within my experience that felt like I needed to resolve, and this fix this. And I think self-help in many ways can kind of lead us on a path of believing that to be true. Now, obviously, some things are incredibly helpful. Some people enjoy certain things, but the sake of this talk, it's really looking at how we can go beyond that. So it's going beyond the idea that the self is broken or the self needs fixing. So that's our subject for today. It looks like I might be on my own. So I will do my best whilst being on my own. I'm used to obviously having Gem or a co-host here. But thank you for joining us. If you can share this spaces via tweet either now or when the recording is done so that we can reach more people, because really what we're teaching here is so important for the world that we're living in at the moment. People's minds are very much in turmoil. People are lost. They don't really know where to look for well-being. And I think we really do offer a solution. So, if you can share that with as many people as possible, that's always welcome. I'm really happy that you're all here. Anyone that's here now or that's listening after, I hope that you feel better, you feel calmer, your mind is more peaceful after you've spent the next hour talking with us and listening to us. This is always going to be an interesting conversation. Sometimes you might find it repetitive, but what it is, it does point to something that's true, and you never know when you're going to hear something new. There's always the potential for us to hear something in a different way. And it might be the same, sometimes I can say the same thing over and over again, and then someone says, why didn't you say that before? And I'm like, I've said it every week. And it's just that that person is ready to hear that at that moment. So even with the old episodes that are on podcasts, so please, if you aren't aware, please find us. We have a podcast of these spaces. It's called the Unminding Project. It's on Apple, it's on Spotify, it's on all the platforms, it's on Fountain, where you can actually earn sats for listening to us. But if you go there and like those episodes, you can listen to those episodes again and again. It's not necessary to just listen to it once, because again, it's like what you're going to hear is always going to be different. So it's very different from the old paradigm of there's something to learn, there's something to get. Once you hear it, you have the understanding and you're done. This is a little bit different. It's what are you going to hear when you listen to the same thing? Now, the founder of the three principles, a guy named Sid Banks, he's passed away now, but I mean, he's not got many videos, but if you can find them, they're really great to listen to as well. And I have to say, there's some of those I must have listened to 100 times. And there's always a moment where I can suddenly hear something differently. I can always hear something and go, oh, okay, I'd not heard that before. And you think if I've listened to that over and over again, to hear something new is kind of amazing. But again, it's because it's coming from us. So again, it's all about revealing a state of mind, a well-being, the happiness that already lives within you. So over the next hour, I just want you to slow down and listen as if you were listening to your favourite music, or listen as if you were listening to rainfall, so that you've just got that detachment from having to listen to know something or understand something with your mind, but you're just listening for something to be revealed, maybe to hear something new, rather than an analytical mind. You can tell the difference between listening analytically and questioning rather than just listening with an open mind. But please, again, it looks like I'm on my own. So if anyone does want to come up and co-host with me, please raise your hand, because I'd love a co-host. But if not, please come and just, ask questions. Come and help and just connect and just, no question is too silly. Any question is okay. If it's on your mind, don't feel like you can't ask it. Please do ask it. And if you're not someone that would like to come up and speak, then can you please just DM me? Now, obviously, as I'm on my own, that might be a little bit trickier than normal to get to the DMs, but I will do my best, and I will read the question out. So leave everything you think you know at the door and just join us and relax for the next hour. Okay, so this is such an interesting topic, because I know that when I found this understanding, one of the biggest reliefs that I had was realizing that I wasn't broken. Okay, the feeling like I was broken was really a big part of the problem that I had, because I was always seeking an answer to fix me. I was always looking to find something that would make me whole, because I didn't realize that I was whole already. What happens is I think we realize when we're young that we're whole, but for some reason, as we grow up, we feel like we're damaged by the experiences that we have. We feel like we're damaged by the past, by everything that's happened to us. And it actually isn't true. Those things that happen to us aren't permanent damage. They're moments that can be, traumatic in the moment. They're moments that can be upsetting, but long term, we are only experiencing those via thought. So what the principles do, they allow us to put all of those things into context. That's why we begin to see that we're not broken, because we're seeing thought in a new way. We're seeing that actually we're seeing the past in a new way. We're seeing the future in a new way, because we're seeing that whenever these things come up, we're experiencing them via thought in the moment. We're not experiencing them as if they were true, because they're not. So we begin to have this new way of seeing, this new sight, I like to call it. So rather than, if someone's in PTSD, what they're having is they're reliving a memory over and over again. And as they're reliving that memory, it appears really real, appears really true. So if you can detach them and get them to understand thought a little more, they begin to see that actually that's not happening anymore. I'm free of that. So that brokenness then dissolves. I hope that makes sense to everybody. It's like once we have a different understanding of our thought system, a lot of the things that look problematic or traumatic actually appear very different, because suddenly we're seeing them in a new light. We're seeing that, well, I can only experience those things in the moment, in the now, via thought. Now, what's really clever is thought creates feeling. So when we get the feeling attached to the old memory, the thought, that's when we get really caught up, because it's like we're reliving it, because the feeling comes in and makes it so real and so powerful. But again, once we see it differently, as we see its thought and that detachment comes in, the feeling isn't as strong. In many ways, the feeling can begin to dissipate because we're not believing in it. We're having a completely new understanding of our own experiences. So that's where the not broken comes in. That's where we reveal the true identity of who we are underneath our mind story. And when we do that, we connect to the peaceful, the interconnected consciousness of who we really are, the oneness of who we are, the space of who we are before thought. And again, the beauty of that, the being able to see that for ourselves, being able to have a new experience of being alive. I actually look at my life now as almost as if I was, I'm a different Molls, I'm a different Sam. Like, it's who I am changed fundamentally 9 years ago when I came into this understanding, because what happened was that I had an experience of being alive that was outside in. And then I saw this understanding. I saw that everything was coming from me. I saw that everything was thought. And it changed it to an inside out experience. So that's like night and day for the human experience. That's going from, I'm a victim of my past, I'm creating this future that's unhelpful and with anxiety and problems and disasters, and I'm not living in the now, to suddenly seeing all that, coming back to living more in the moment. I still get caught in thought, but knowing that everything is my own thinking, completely understanding I'm not a victim of anything my parents ever did to me. I'm not a victim of any of the traumas that I experienced growing up or in my 20s or whenever it was that I've experienced trauma, that they don't exist anymore. So my experience of who I am completely changed. So it's I can't define myself in the old ways that I used to define myself. It's impossible now. That self doesn't exist anymore. So the old broken Molls that was hypersensitive and, vulnerable, and, there was a time I was very depressed as well. That was more in my late 30s to early 40s. Before that, I covered all of that up. I had a very full life before those experiences, but it was fun, and I did a lot of things. But again, that was almost a covering up of all of those problems. That was a covering up of all of that thinking. It was believing that I was this broken person and kind of fighting through that and having a life. And then suddenly, through the breakdown, through what happened to me in my mind, eventually I came out of that to see that thought was the creator of every experience I ever had, and was the creator of my momentary experience. So I became free. I became free of all of the thinking that held me back. And I didn't have to cover it up. I didn't have to wear a mask anymore of who I wasn't. I could just be who I am. Again, back to the freedom, back to the identity, the true identity, which isn't what the mind is telling us. The true identity is consciousness, it's peace, it's love. And that's, as we strip away this understanding, we get to see that. And how could that ever be broken? How can that ever need self-help? The self is a construct. The self is a moment-to-moment construct of who we believe we are. Now, if that belief can change just by seeing through thought, and we evolve and we change very organically, why do I need to self-help? Why do I need to fix the self? I'm trying to manage an illusion. I'm trying to fix an illusion. It doesn't work. In fact, the years of self-help, I believe, led me to the place where I ended up having a breakdown, because the answer was never in the illusion of who I thought I was. The answer was always in me coming home to who I really am. So I hope that's kind of giving you an idea of why I felt this topic is so important, because as every week we're looking at the mind stories and how they're not true. I know if you're suffering from mental illness or just, not feeling great, the mind makes up so many stories about this self, and it makes up an idea that you have to somehow go out and find the answer and fix the self. And I can tell you from my heart that I don't believe that to be true. It doesn't mean to say we might not go and play and get healing and do this and do that, whatever, but it's not from a place of being broken. It's from a place of understanding that we're already whole, and that we're just going to have experiences out in this world, out in the playground of this planet that we're living on in this moment. So it's just so important to me to point that there is nothing to fix. There appears to be an evolution of the self, and I would agree with that. I can see that in myself. But the self that you are in this moment is perfect. Okay? As was the self that you appeared to be 5 years ago, or the self that you will be in 10 years. It's always perfect. Can you see how seeing this can lead to insights and evolution, rather than the berating ourselves that we're not good enough, that we need to be better, or that we are broken and we need to be fixed? You are the timeless essence of the universe in motion. How can that be anything other than whole and perfect? It's just that we cloud that with untrue thoughts of a self that is made up and doesn't really exist. So what happens when we see that is this natural, organic healing of the self occurs. So for me, of course, it can look like when I was in my breakdown and my depression and my anxiety, that there was a self to fix. And I tried many ways to fix it. But actually what happened was I had an insight into thought. I saw who I really was, and the healing just occurred organically. I didn't have to do anything. The insight was the seeds that allowed my life, my understanding and who I am to change. It wasn't in a doing, it was a realization of being. So again, it's that, it's just a different way to see it. So from there, of course, there's a different version of me. There's an evolution. There's a Molls that appears differently and feels very differently as well. But that was because that was organic, and that is how that was meant to happen. It wasn't because I used like 100 techniques or I found the perfect self-help exercise to create that. It was created by me seeing through that, seeing beyond that. So I'm going to see if Gem is able to speak now. Are you there? I'm not sure. Again, if anyone would like to come up and... Oh, are you there? No, she can't get on. If anyone would like to come up and co-host with me, then please feel free, or just kind of ask some questions, because it's incredibly helpful to have someone to bounce off of. But if not, that's fine. I can keep going. Let's see. No, it's not working. Has anybody got any questions right now? Anything to say, anybody? No? Okay. So can you give me some emojis if what I'm saying is making sense and you just want me to carry on with everything? Oh, I've got a few. Oh, right, let's see where we go with this. I think what can happen with the self-help is as well, what it can do is it can create really unrealistic expectations. Oh, hello, Rain. I think there's some tech issues tonight because I can't let someone else on as well. Let's see if Rain can get on. No, I'm gonna invite Rain. Oh, Rain, are you there? Oh, yay!
Jem's been trying to connect. You do know that, right?
I know. Just it's not working for whatever reason.
You're going to have to work the three principles around it.
I think we're doing great. I think we're doing great. But yeah, unfortunately, yeah, for whatever reason, as I said, she's on someone else's phone, so whatever. So maybe it's just not working. But how are you, Rain?
There she is. I see her.
Oh.
I am wonderful. I popped in here to hear your insight on, how to overcome trauma and stuff. I actually had some PTSD come up a few weeks ago. Because I used to have it really, really strong, like really strong.
Okay.
And did a ton of work around PTSD and all that sort of stuff. And but what was interesting though, and I wanted to get your advice, is literally I had no idea that it was actually PTSD. Like I just was getting angry, and I could tell you for the past 10 years, maybe even 15 years in relationships, I would just get sick of the person after a while, and I would get annoyed. Anyway, come to find out, my partner challenged me on it and was like, what is happening right now? Why are you so annoyed at everything? Why is this triggering you? And blah, 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 blah. It was the first time ever, though, that I was actually able to identify that potentially this was fragments of that. So what about the unconscious mind, the part that you're just not aware of, but yet you're still acting out, you're still guarding yourself, you're still protecting yourself, but like I had no idea till 3 weeks ago. How do you force yourself to become aware?
Wow, I love that. That's a great question. I would say the unconscious becomes conscious when it's ready to. So for you, that was your moment of insight. Yeah, so that it was ready to be seen. But how do we recognize that we've got unconscious behaviors playing out? The behavior. If the behavior is actually detrimental to us, if it's unhelpful, we can see that, hold on a minute, that behavior isn't great. Why am I doing that? Well, maybe sometimes you don't even need to know why. Because you have an understanding of thought now via this teaching, you can say, I know where that's coming from. That's coming from thought. Thought isn't true. And you can kind of almost cut the behavior a little bit, or it may not completely go away, but you recognize when you're doing it, you understand it's thought because you've gone upstream, and you can kind of go, I know this is thought, and you can just get over yourself because it's not the other person, it's not the past, it's a projection coming from you in the moment. So that tends to ease it a little bit. It kind of gives us a bit of self-awareness. Then when you need to know, if you ever need to know what it's about, it will come up and you'll go, oh, that's why I do that. That's why I behave in that way. Okay, so that's what's really interesting, is that it takes away this desire for the intellect to have to know everything. I don't always have to know why I'm being an arsehole if I'm being an arsehole, because I just realize I'm being an arsehole and I stop it. Now, if there is something I need to learn from that, then it will come up and I'll go, oh, that's why I was being like that. But quite often I just put it down to thought in the moment. It clears, it passes. If I've been an arsehole, I apologize and I move on. So that's the simplicity that we're talking about here. Is that helpful, Rain? Rain, are you there? Gems, are you there? No, I have no co-hosts at all again. Sponge, stop laughing. But yeah, so that's what we're talking about anyway, and it's so helpful to begin to see that. It's so interesting to see that, because it gives us freedom. It gives us the freedom to just be, just to go, oh, it's all me. We're not projecting out onto the other person all the time. We don't have to project. We just have to see that it's always coming from our thinking. When we see that, we're back in the room. Okay.
Yeah.
So as soon as I see it's coming from my thinking, I'm back.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I couldn't come off mute. So I think there might be something
That's fine. There's
funky about your space for sure.
definitely a problem with spaces tonight. Definitely a problem, but it's fine. We're getting through it.
That was very helpful. Thank you, Molly. I understand what you're saying, but what's interesting though is that, like, again, it would just keep coming up for me, and I would just keep telling myself that it was the person, that they were just getting on my nerves, and that was perfectly normal, and blah blah blah. But the truth is that it came from a much greater source. The more commitment I was giving, the more the subconscious fear there was. And I broke down, and there was a tremendous amount of grief that came out of me. So I get a little confused with the whole, there is no past, you heal from the past. But then why would so much grief come out simultaneously when I did become conscious of what was triggering me?
Great question again, because I can experience that too. So I know what you're talking about,
Okay.
but I think for me, I don't see that as the past coming out. I just see there's something that again, I don't look at things in the term of past and future anymore. There's just this present me. So I can definitely have that experience. I've had it recently of letting go of something and really having a good cry.
Right.
But I don't analyze it and think, is it from the past? It's just, I know that it was something that needed to be released, because we're still having the human experience. We're talking about a deeper self here, but there's still a separate self that is human and is having the experience, and it appears as a past and it appears as a future that we're here to experience. But it's more me seeing the truth of who I am that allows me to let go of who I am not. So in a way, I see that as a part of the untruth being let go of. If does that make sense?
It
It's hard to put into words.
Sense. I can. It does make sense, because I was in that moment, and I mean, was there a specific? That person was reminding me of my father, right? They were
right,
and they happened to be my partner, and to find those words and say those words so that we could reduce those triggers. I do understand that it is still current self. I'm still who I am today, and this is where it needs to be sorted, is what's happening today. Is that so is that correct? Like, to just focus on, how do we resolve this today? Yes, okay, it could be from Mars for all we care. How do we work on this today so that I can react differently and behave, and also I can become aware to react differently, like that it doesn't have to take me hostage anymore.
That's beautiful. That's an insight. That's the whole purpose of this conversation.
Right.
We've come, as far as I can see, we come to have the human experience. We come to be a separate self, but we have to be the separate self before we lose the separate self.
Yeah.
So it's just like to me, it's like a game now. It's like the game of life. Like, what are we playing? And of course, I get upset. I get hurt. I want things that I don't get. I have grief. I still have a full human experience, but I'm not afraid of it anymore. And I know that I can, whatever I'm feeling, I have the potential to bounce out of it very, very quickly. Once I see what's really going on.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome, my darling. Thank you for coming up.
Yep.
Thank you. So, yeah, that's such a great question. I've got a quote here. and it's from Sid Banks, and he was the founder of the Three Principles. And he says, in this game of life, we all search for ourselves. When I say selves, I mean inner selves, the thing that created the life in the first place. Now, consciously, most of us are not aware of this. But if you're searching for happiness, if you're searching for tranquility, if you're searching just to have a nice, peaceful, loving, understanding life, in actual fact, you're searching for your inner self. And I think that's such a beautiful quote, and it really is. It's like we're looking on the outside for what we already have on the inside. And it's so easy to get compelled or enamored by the world and the people and the things in it to give us that. But we've already got it. And the beautiful thing of awakening to that is that we begin to live differently, because we still have relationships and love and friends and families and all of the things that being human contains. But if we're not expecting those things to provide our happiness, we can have really good relationships in all its forms. I'm not just talking about personal love relationships, all of our friendships, all of our families, all of those things that look problematic can get a lot easier when we see who we really are. It's so beautiful to wake up from the inside. And I really think it is like a game of two halves. It's this self that we think we are, that, we're born and suddenly we're told we're a separate self and we have a name, and this separation has this ego and it tries to defend it, defends who it thinks it is. And then there's this point where we see through that and we begin the journey back in. It's the journey outward leads to the journey inwards. There has to be a moment of reflection, of suffering, of trauma, of whatever it is for us that suddenly brings us home again. Because again, home is everything that we're looking for. There was a Zen master, and he was always, I can't remember his name, but he always said, don't worry about the leaves, don't worry about the flowers, don't worry about the branches, go to the root. And for me, this is what the in Zen, what they're talking about. What's the root? It makes no difference. You cut away the flowers, you cut away the leaves, whatever it is, it's going to grow back. But if we go to the root, which is thought, if we go to the root, which is who we really are, then all these things that look like we need to cut away just fall away very, very naturally. Because we don't have to worry about the expressions of the self, because the self's always going to self. The self's always selfing. We don't have to worry about whether we're having good thoughts or bad thoughts, because suddenly we see that everything's made of thought. Sometimes we're going to be really loving and compassionate, and sometimes we're not. And I think that the no self-help is that we don't have to purify this self. We don't have to change the mind, control the mind. We don't have to try and manipulate behavior, because it just doesn't work. Just is a means to nothing, because you can't stop thought. Behavior comes from thought. You might be able to control it momentarily, but behavior will always come back because you're not going to the root. Behavior is like cutting off the flower and expecting the whole plant to die. It's not going to happen. It's something different. It's, again, what I always point to, we're already whole. We're already whole. We're already complete. It's that insight, it's not understanding this intellectually. It's having that moment of insight where you see it, where you go, oh, it really is all thought, or oh, I really am whole. Because when that happens, then this dissolution of who we think we are begins, we see it. It's not a doing. It's just very organic and it's very natural, because we have a new perspective, we have a new understanding of who we are, and everything comes from that. Everything comes from going upstream. So again, what is this self that we're trying to help? And look, like it must be $1 billion industry, the self-help industry. It's huge, and it creates such unrealistic expectations because it tells you there is a better you to get to. We're never selling a better you. We're selling a different you because we're saying that there's something before the self that will emerge, but it's not in you doing anything. You know, it's just in a seeing. It's not in you doing anything with your minds that's going to create change. The change is going to come from you understanding what your mind is doing, seeing the mind, awareness, consciousness, observation of self. Not in the listening to what the mind is saying, which is mainly bullshit, and then trying to work out what you need to do about what the mind is saying, and then trying to fix that, and then kind of, you know, trying to go outside of yourself to make that happen. It's nothing out there. It's nothing out there for you. It's all within you. It's self-realization. But it's so interesting. It's almost no self-realization. A realization that the self is in a constant state of flux. You're never ever in one state of mind. It's constantly changing. Who you are isn't set or fixed. It isn't. It's, you know that. You know that there's different versions of you that are appearing all the time. Some of those versions you take to be more real than others. They're not. It's all part of the same illusion. Rupert Spira says, we take that which is unreal to be real, and that which is real to be unreal. And I love that quote. And it really points to this, we take all this outside world as the reality and we ignore the inner world. Until we find something like this, and then we begin to explore it and we see ourselves differently and we see who we are. But yeah, it's all, again, it's what I was saying earlier about that night and day, those two different versions of me. It was the one that lived outside in to the one that now lives inside out some of the time. I still go outside in about 100 times a day. I mean, we're not curing the human condition here. We're just seeing it for what it is. Again, that's what I love about this. It's not selling you, come and do this, you'll be happy all the time. Will you probably be happier more of the time? I presume so. But are you still going to get sad? Yes. Are you still going to get angry sometimes? Absolutely. Are you still going to get stressed? Yes. But you're not going to take any of that as seriously as you did before you understood this. Because the understanding of this frees us from the seriousness of our fleeting emotions, our fleeting feelings. Now, you can take them seriously for a moment, for an hour, for a day, for however long, but there's a point where suddenly you realise that who you are isn't something undesirable to get rid of. That feeling isn't something to push away. It's just something that as you see it, it just disappears. You don't try and change or get rid of anything. There's no effort involved. You know, because how I see it is, if I'm having a bad feeling and suddenly I'm like, I've got to do something about that bad feeling, I'm saying that bad feeling is real. So actually, the more I see through it, the more I see it's an illusion, then I see the unreal nature of it, the more it falls away. I'm not fixing it in place. The fixing it in place is a big part of the problem that we experience, because we say it's real, we fix it in place, we try and fix it, we try and cure it, we say this, I'm not gonna be okay until I sort this thing out. Well, you're always okay. Even when you're not okay, you're okay. Because the space that's created you, who you really are, this energy behind life, these principles behind life, you're always okay. That can't be damaged. That can't be scratched. I've probably said this on many calls before, but if you imagine the screen of consciousness, and on that screen, that's your TV screen, all things are played out. You watch series on it, you watch movies on it, and those movies are sometimes violent, sometimes sad, sometimes happy. They have a story arc. There's a lot that goes on in them. But when you turn the movie off, nothing's ever happened to the screen. And that's what we have to remember, that we are the screen. The truth of who we are the screen of consciousness. We are not the story that's being played out. I find that such a beautiful way of looking at it. And it's so helpful because it really makes sense. It's really logical. So these principles are incredibly beautiful and spiritual, but really logical as well. Suddenly you begin to say, God, yeah, really, what am I experiencing right now? Oh, so it can only be one thing, thought. Whatever that thought looks like, good, bad, ugly, sad, angry, whatever feeling it's creating, whatever that thought looks like, what is that? That is thought in the moment. Nothing to do with the projection that you're adding to the outside world. Nothing to do with that. It's what's coming from you right in that moment. Yeah, so how simple to have an understanding like this. Oh, I'm so lost. I'm so caught up. Oh, it's thought. Oh, I'm angry. It's thought. I'm sad. It's thought. I don't like them. It's thought. I love them. It's thought. It's like, oh, God, this simplifies life. It enables us to live and come back to to the true reality over and over again. When I said I go outside in 100 times a day, I probably wasn't lying. But what I have is the ability to now understand and see that I come back inside out again. I see, oh yeah, that's thought. Oh yeah, that's me. Oh yeah, that's thought. As soon as I see that, it dissolves what can seem like an insurmountable problem in the outside world, because I'm back in my logic. I'm back in the truth of who I am. I'm seeing clearly. So what happens when we don't see clearly? We just have thoughts creating it. And nothing's wrong and nothing's right about either state. It just isness. It just is what is. We're here to have those experiences. We're here to learn, to evolve, to have the human experience. But that's different from being fixed. I know it can seem like a subtle difference, but it's actually quite a big difference. Okay, of course we're going to always change and evolve, but it's really true that there's nothing to fix, that even in your worst state, you're not broken. Just thought is creating an experience that you don't like. And if you could see that, then clarity would come in and you would have a different experience. It's, again, always us, always back home. It's knowing that the peace isn't found in the activity of what your mind is saying. Your mind does not contain the answers you're looking for when you're emotionally lost or you're caught up in your feelings. Mental health and well-being are revealed when we challenge this activity of the mind, when we see who we are before our thoughts, beliefs and conditioning. Okay? I love, again, another analogy I love is that, we believe we're the wave, we believe we're a separation, but we're always the ocean. Yeah, it's always, we're never separate. We just appear separate. And we fall back into the ocean and we realise that we're one. There's all these helpful things in nature that allow us to see it. It is a reflection of who we are. So we just realise that we're not our thoughts and beliefs, that we're not the wave, and that's our freedom. And how do we get there? It's just an inquiry. It's just these conversations. It's just these spaces. It's just, working with someone that like me, or, whoever, that can point you home, a three principles teacher, or courses, well, like whatever it is, read books, watch videos. There's no set way, because we're all unique in what we're going to see and how we're going to see it. But at the core, we're one. In truth, there's only one shared being. With all these beautiful separations, that all having these amazing experiences that come and go. And this inquiry is the most powerful way I have seen to create change. All over the world to try and find it. It wasn't there. It was always in me. And it was just me remembering who I am. So, if anyone has any questions, please come up, or anything to say. As you may have noticed, I'm on my own tonight, so we may finish a little bit early. And I can't see it. Oh, hold on. Is there a request? See the request. Oh, Gem's requested. See if we can get her. Yeah, it's very interesting to explore this. You know, I really say again, don't take my word for it. Explore for yourself. You'll experience the changes. You'll experience the insights. They may not come on your terms, again, because we have a mind with its wants and its needs. But, you know, if we can bypass that and just see who we really are and explore that, then, you know, it's infinite what we have the possibility to see. Because who we are, in truth, is an infinite being that's having a temporary human experience. So, again, explore for yourself. See what's true. Gem, can we hear you yet? No, I can't. Can anyone else hear her? Maybe it's just me. Sponge, stop laughing again.
How about now?
Oh, yes.
Is it working now?
Oh, a little bit.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, goodness. Hello, everybody.
Right, you take over.
That was wonderful. I heard the whole thing apart from the first 10 minutes, basically. I think, I dropped my phone in the sea yesterday, and I'm using my friend's phone, but I've previously disabled everything so well that it's taken me 45 minutes to re-enable it. So, yeah, sorry, everybody. And Molls, that was amazing. I think everyone can agree that, yeah, we don't need self-help anymore. No, and I had a load of things that I wanted to talk about, but I'm just surprised to be here.
Yeah.
Long time listener, first time caller. But, yeah, let me compose myself. No,
Okay.
there was something that I sent you earlier actually, and I'd like to read it. It was from a book by Matt Haig, and the book's called Reasons to Stay Alive. And it's all about, well, I'll read it and you'll see. So it says, the world is increasingly designed to depress us. Happiness isn't very good for the economy. If we were happy with what we did, why would we need more? How do you sell anti-aging moisturizer? You make someone worried about aging. How do you get people to vote for a political party? You make them worry about immigration. How do you get them to buy insurance? By making them worry about everything. How do you get them to have plastic surgery? By highlighting their physical flaws. How do you get them to watch a TV show? By making them worry about missing out. How do you get them to buy a new smartphone? By making them feel like they're being left behind. To be calm becomes a kind of revolutionary act. To be happy with your own non-upgraded existence, to be comfortable with your messy human selves is not good for business. And I read it earlier, and I've read it many times before, and it kind of hit a bit differently today, because I think lots of people are going through different sort of states of being. Lots of people are becoming more minimalist and realizing, hey, things are getting very expensive, but do I actually need all this stuff? And it's great. It's all well and good having all the nice things because they make you feel good, but sort of depending on them and sort of feeling left out if you don't have them is not a good place to be. And that's what businesses and the media, that's what they they basically rely on our vulnerability. And any sort of self-help, whether it's a book, a tablet, you know, anything like that, is kind of, you're committing sort of monetarily to something. And I've been through it before, where I've got rid of a load of books the other day. I must have hundreds and hundreds of self-help books that I've collected over my years of trying to self-help myself. And it was just like, when I got to the end of the book, I was like, oh, amazing. Learned some things, don't feel like I'm how I should be, let's get another book. And so I was just on this constant readathon of self-help book to self-help book. I was like, oh, that's interesting, oh, that's great. And then you have all these self-help books, and it's like, well, it kind of felt like every time you buy one, you're either agreeing that you need help, but then on the other side, you're also kind of feeling like, oh, I'm doing something to help myself. But funneling back to what Molls says, it's now all of it seems so unnecessary. But when I was tied up and stuck in the moment, it was like, no, I need that. Oh, how did I survive without that? Oh, that's really helping me. And it was such a mess, all these different tools and books and trying to remember different things. I don't want to say it's bullshit, but for me now, it's kind of bullshit, because it really complicates things unnecessarily. So that's how I kind of feel on the subject now. Books, I've got lots of lovely books, but I don't use them in the same way as I did. I know that there's nothing that I can get from the outside world that I need. You know, everything's already here, and that's really, it's lovely to experience all these different things, but it's much nicer to know that I don't need it. So yeah, that's probably one of the biggest changes that I've experienced while being involved with the 3 principles. And I hope you can all hear me, because I've been talking without stopping, and I've been struggling to get on for 45 minutes. So can you all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, good.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I tell you what came up for me as you were speaking, and it's also true. And while it looks like there's a self to help, why wouldn't we want to try and help it? But that falls away when we kind of stumble across an understanding like this. And what I was hearing, and it was true for me, it's not a criticism of anybody else. It's we become very, very self-indulgent. You know, the self-help can make us focus so much on the self. It's all about us and our feelings and protecting ourselves and being an empath and being this and being that. And I'm not saying that, you know, people don't experience that. That's fine. You know, you experience what you experience, but it can be magnified so much because we're constantly holding that mirror up and seeing that, trying to fix this self. And it's almost going deeper and deeper into a rabbit hole of an illusion. And as we go deeper and deeper, we focus more and more on us. And I found in my life, the more I focus on others, the better I feel. The more I look towards other people and helping them rather than myself, the freer I am, the richer in so many ways that I am, because I'm seeing through the illusion of the self. I'm seeing that the other is me. So it's just so interesting to begin to explore this idea of no self. Yeah. So thank you, Gem.
No, my pleasure. And one of the most amazing things was when I first eventually, after dragging my feet, started working with you, I was a bit confused, because I had this list of not very many things, but a list of reasons why I was never really going to be fully happy. You know, there's these reasons, or this happened then and this happened then. And I'd carried them around with me my whole life. And I'd started working with Molls, and then after a few weeks, I was just like, do we not need to talk about these things? You know, these really important things, because I need to figure them out, because that is the reason that I can't be happy. And you kind of didn't give me an answer. You just kind of brushed past and just carried on. And I was just like, oh, actually, it feels better not talking about them anyway. And eventually, not even after that long, it was just like, that list doesn't even exist anymore. And I'd spent so long like looking at PTSD and how to get over certain things, and I just don't need to now, because they still happened, but they don't affect me. And it's just quite astonishing, really. And I remember being a bit pissed off, because I was just like, I knew that you cared, and I knew that you were doing exactly what you're supposed to do, but I was a bit confused, and I was like, what is she just like treating me a bit differently because I'm her friend, or like, what's going on here? And then I realized, yeah, well, because the reason that you're stuck in the shit is because you keep going over the shit, and now the shit doesn't matter. So it's very different to anything that I've ever experienced, and logically it makes total sense, because why would I want to keep going over a place that I don't like, and it automatically sort of makes it so much worse. And these memories we have, they're so defunct and so warped anyway, they're so long ago, it's just totally unnecessary. So yeah, that was quite a funny thing, Molls. I was slightly confused at the beginning, but it all makes absolute sense.
Yeah, I remember as well. You get that list, and I was like, oh, yeah, well, maybe next time. And you were like, I could tell you really wanted to go into the list, and I was like, I am not sitting here listening to that. That list is just absolutely irrelevant to anything that's going on. And it was so interesting, because I'm just guided when I work with somebody one-to-one. Actually, even on these calls, it feels like I'm just guided what to say and how to work with someone. And it just felt, no, do not go there. This is like that list does not need any compounding. It doesn't need any fixing in place. It just needs to be completely ignored. And I've had it when I've come across other clients and working with them, and they've got their journal and their book, and these are all the things I've been told that I need to work on. And they go, do you want me to go through it with you? And I go, no. And they look a bit like, what? And I go, no. There's absolutely nothing to find in what your mind is telling you need to do. Burn it. Burn the book, because you'll get actually much more freedom from letting go of all of that than you will from going into all of that. And that's the difference. Again, it's like outside in to inside out. And I love that actually, with you, Gem, I didn't even have to say to you, the list is bullshit. You came to that understanding on your own by having the conversations with me about what was true. You suddenly saw what wasn't.
Well, yeah, basically the thing that I thought needed fixing was the only single thing holding me back. It was like a double entendre. But it took, well, probably a good couple of years, but there's been so much change in the last couple of months. It literally feels like I'm starting my life completely again. It's really like new decisions, new different ways of looking at things. So yeah, it definitely works. But it's so funny how you have these fixed beliefs and thinking that you need to figure these things out, and actually that's the whole problem in the first place. But I think lots of different things in life can be simplified so much, and we do overcomplicate them.
Yeah.
If you were looking at it like a maths problem, you would never keep using the numbers that don't work to try and make the equation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So emotions are a bugger, aren't they?
Yeah, they really are.
I know you've asked a couple of times and everyone seems a little bit shy, but is there anybody that wants to come up and speak? You've been on for an hour. I'm sure your voice is nearly gone, but if anyone wants to come up and speak, then you're more than welcome.
And we've had real problems with accepting requests. A lot of times I'm clicking on and that people aren't getting even up to speak. Even with Rain, it took a couple of times, and then when she did come on, she couldn't unmute herself. So there's definitely something wrong with Spaces tonight. So if anyone did request and then got kicked off, it wasn't us.
Yeah, we've had a couple of messages in the Telegram saying, oh, do you not want me to co-host? So I think that was Dave. So apologies. We wouldn't have seen anything.
Yeah. But the third time, I think we got Rain was able to connect. But I know with you it was your phone, but there's definitely something going on tonight, guys. So yeah, sorry about all the technical issues, but I really hope that you've heard something that's sparked your interest, or something that's allowed you to see it a little more deeply. And please reach out to me if you would like to requests and of some book ideas or anything else. Just let me know. And Gem's as well. Gem's DMs are always open. She's incredibly helpful to anybody that's interested. We've also really want to push our our podcast. So please go on Spotify or Apple or Fountain, and please subscribe to it and rate it if you can, and listen to episodes, because we really feel that this is the future of our minding, is going to be this podcast. So, and you're all at the beginning, you're all with us, everybody on here I think has been with us since the beginning. So thank you so much for being a part of this, and please continue on our journey with us.
Yeah, it's been wonderful so far, and very much looking to see where it goes. And seeing you guys here every week is really wonderful. It's lovely to have you all here. Any future subjects or topics you want us to cover, just let us know. Like Mol says, our DMs are always open. Please visit the website, and just leaving us 5 stars, obviously, but really helps. It makes us get seen more, and it's just an easy thing to do. It only takes 2 seconds, and you listen to us anyway, so that would be very helpful. And I'm a bit gutted that I missed the beginning, but I actually got to unmind myself while I was trying to fix things, so everything's always interesting.
Yeah, handled it really well. So I think you've done brilliantly.
Well, I don't think you need me. That's what I'm worried about. No, we can't. Okay, well, have you got anything else that you'd like to sort of finish off with? Anything to read or?
No, I don't think so, because I read the quotes during the session. So it's just remember just inquire. Just remember that our thinking isn't true. There's a Michael Neal quote, actually, I'll finish with, is, when our thoughts look real, we live in a world of suffering. When they look subjective, we live in a world of choice. When they look arbitrary, we live in a world of possibility. And when we see them as illusory, we wake up inside a world of dreams. And that's what we're pointing to here. It's that illusion of thought. So thank you all for being here. Thank you all for bearing with us in our tech issues. Thank you, Gem, for finally getting on. Thank you, Rain, for being a temporary co-host. And really, really lovely to have you all here. Please reach out if you would like to, find out some more about my work or some more about the 3 principles. And for anything else, we will see you next week. Gem, have you got anything to say?
Just sorry. And it's not to put a dampener or anything, but some of the stuff, and I sent you some bits earlier, but some of the things that I was looking at in regards to sort of self-help, the stats. I know most of you guys that listen are in America, and so we have the NHS here, so most of our healthcare is covered. But I was reading some of the figures, and that the average person with depression in America costs sort of $22,000-$23,000. Even if you've got symptoms, it's costing sort of $14,000-$15,000. So it really made me think earlier, if sort of most of the people that are listening are American, most of our interactions are with Americans, and it made me really want to just help, because we don't have that problem, Molls, do we? Where, we go to the doctors and they give us a load of tablets for free. You might be on a couple of year waiting list for counselling and things, but people, the difference is very, very big. And it did make me think earlier, how can we help people? Because, that type of money is like a full-time job in the UK. Not only suffering, you're also having to pay as well. And the difference is quite big, and it did make me think.
Yeah, well, I think that's why we're doing this, isn't it? Because, we reach a worldwide audience. When we look at the podcast stats, I don't know if you've looked at where we're listened to, Jem, but like the most random places all over the world are listening to the podcast. So we know that we're sharing something very, very important. So again, guys, we want you to go on the podcast. We want you to rate it and listen to it, and we want it to help you. But please share it with those other people that that may need help, because you never know what someone might hear, and it can absolutely change their life. It changed my life. It changed Gem's life. It's changed hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people's lives now, via all these wonderful teachers of these 3 principles all over the world. So, it's important. it's incredibly valuable, and it really is the perfect time to put this out into the world, because there is so much suffering out there. And if traditional therapy, if the drugs worked, if the self-help worked, why would we be in such a mental health epidemic? It's getting worse and worse and worse. And I know that this is part of the answer, and Gem does too, and I think hopefully you guys do too. You've been helped by it. So, please be vocal, please be a spokesperson for us, for OneMinding, and for the 3 principles. So, yeah, so that's what I'd like to say. So thank you.
I wanted you to have the final word.
Well, now I haven't. Oh no,
Well,
have I?
I'm going to say love you, everybody, and then you say goodbye. I love you, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, I love you too. Bye, everybody. Thank you for joining us.